Hillary Clinton started a podcast. I wish I was joking. I'm not. Jesus, everybody. Listen, I can't say shit because obviously I have like multiple podcasts, but everybody's got a fucking podcast, man. So I don't know who the hell listens to Hillary's podcast. I really don't know, like the kind of person who would listen to Hillary's podcast. But anyway, she had on Nancy Pelosi, and the conversation went pretty much exactly how you thought it would go.
We learned a lot about our system of government over the last 4 years with a president who disdains democracy and, as you have said numerous times, has other agendas. What they all are, I don't think we yet know. I hope historically we will find out who he's beholden to, who pulls his strings. I would love to see his phone records to see whether he was talking to Putin the day that the insurgents invaded our capital. But we now know that not just him, but his enablers, his accomplices, his cult members have the same disregard for democracy. Do you think we need a 9/11 type commission to investigate and report everything that they can pull together and explain what happened?
I do. Let me, again, to your point of who is he beholden to, as I've said over and over, as I said to him in that picture with my blue suit,
right,
as I was leaving, what I was saying to him as I was pointing rudely at him, with you, Mr. President, all roads lead to Putin. I don't know what Putin has on him politically, financially, or personally. But what happened last week was a gift to Putin because Putin wants to undermine democracy in our country and throughout the world. And these people, unbeknownst to them maybe, are Putin puppets. They were doing Putin's business when they did that at the incitement of an insurrection by the President of the United States. So yes, we should have a 9/11 commission, and there's strong support in the Congress to do that.
What if I told you not everything is about Russia? Not everything is about Vladimir Putin. You guys hear that and you're like, fucking obviously. But no, there's a certain faction of corporate Democrats that's all they think about. You would think that after the Mueller report, that this issue would be put to bed and at least people would want to stop embarrassing themselves. But they don't want to stop embarrassing themselves. They're still embarrassing themselves. I mean, listen, when people went down in the Mueller report, none of it was for collusion with Russia. It all had to do with corruption. And good, I'm glad people went down for corruption. More people should go down for corruption because there's a lot more corruption in the Trump circles than has been uncovered so far. But it's got nothing to do with Russia. What are you talking about? She says, I want to find out who he's beholden to, who pulls his strings. Donald Trump is a fucking idiot. I don't know if you noticed this, but he doesn't really seem like the kind of guy who's going to like be manipulated in some high-minded strategy. No, he's the kind of guy with no filter who like vomits out his every fucking thought. That's the kind of guy he is. Now, ultimately, who did he end up listening to? The establishment. He listened to Goldman Sachs. He listened to Wall Street. He listened to the military-industrial complex and the neoconservatives. He listened to Big Pharma. He listened to for-profit health insurance companies. So he listened to the same merry band of thieves and idiots and corrupt swamp creatures that you listen to, Hillary. Now, I'm not saying you guys are exactly the same. You're not. There are differences. But by and large, he was a status quo president. Now, that's bad enough on its own merits. But it's not some sort of unique evil who's beholden to Vladimir Putin. That's not what he is. But see, they want to hold on to this delusion because then it excuses all the things that they have always done wrong. Like, they are corrupt swamp creatures who represent business as usual and the status quo and their special interests and donors. And so they want to feel like, no, Trump's not like us. He's a unique evil. And he's a unique evil specifically because he's representing Vladimir Putin and he's pulling his puppet strings. And so as soon as we get rid of him, oh my God, then everything's lovely. Their whole thing is like, let's get back to normal. That's their whole argument. Well, normal got us Trump because he got to pretend to be a fake populist who's against the career insiders, and he won doing that. But now it's back to normal, and these are the same preconditions that led to Trump. She said, did he talk to Putin during the insurrection? Stop and think about how stupid that is. Like, does anybody really believe Trump was talking to Putin during the insurrection? Donald Trump was on the phone with Vladimir Putin during the insurrection. When it was happening, so there's contradictory reporting, but some of the reporting said Trump looked at who was doing the attempted insurrection at the Capitol, and he was like, oh, this looks gross because they all look low class, and Trump hates the look of low class shit. So that was one report. Then we know, because of how he acted while it was happening and in the aftermath, he spoke out of both sides of his mouth. He's like, we need to be peaceful. We love our law enforcement. Don't do anything bad to our law enforcement. But also, there's a totally fraudulent and rigged election, and it's not good. So he was talking out of both sides of his mouth. And then the next day, he really threw him under the bus. He gave a couple speeches where he really threw him under the bus, and he was like, no supporters of mine could ever be violent. Then the argument was, he was saying behind the scenes, it was probably Antifa. It wasn't even my people, because my people aren't violent. So you think that guy, who obviously didn't know how to handle what was happening and was taken aback by it and confused by it and had mixed feelings and was double speaking about it, you think that guy was taking orders from Vladimir Putin and was in on the whole thing? Just shut the fuck up. Why do people have to be so stupid? This is like dense on purpose. She says, do we need a 9/11 commission to figure out if he's beholden to Russia? And Nancy Pelosi's like, oh yes, that's what we need to do. And then Pelosi says, Putin wants to undermine democracy throughout the world. What about when we undermine democracy and you guys are in favor of it? Remember that? Remember how you guys supported overthrowing Iraq? Now, they weren't a democratic country, but you know what also is not democratic? Overthrowing foreign countries. That's not democratic. What we did in Iraq, what we did in Afghanistan, what we do bombing 8 different countries, currently what we're doing and what Biden is promising to continue in Venezuela. All the time we support brutal dictators against democratically elected governments. All the time we do that. And they have, Putin is undermining democracy. How about you worry about what you can fix? What you can fix is, we need to not overthrow democracies. We need to not meddle in other people's affairs. What's that phrase? It's like, don't look at the splinter in your neighbor's eye when you have a branch in yours. Something like that. I'm butchering that 1,000 ways, but I think that's like a quote in the Bible about the hypocrite. And that's what these people are. Oh, Putin, look at what he's doing around the world. Look what you're doing around the world. Look at what you're doing around the world. That's not to say Putin is good. He's not. But look at what you're doing around the world. Jesus Christ. I mean, listen, this is delusional. This is deranged. After everything that's happened, all the things you can go after Trump for, all the ways in which he's failed, all the ways in which he's been corrupt, all the ways in which he's continued the status quo. And the thing that they choose to focus on is, I still think he's controlled by Vladimir Putin. No, you know who he's controlled by? Wall Street, Big Pharma, the military-industrial complex. And if you want to talk about foreign governments that control him, look to Israel and Saudi Arabia. In other words, some of the same people that control you guys.